Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing, the Fond Pod, the Fond Cast. It's Cody, you bet. And I'm here again with another one of my James Bond 60th anniversary series watch-alongs. Classic or crap? Today's entry from 2015, Spectre. Dun dun dun. Oh my goodness. We're just about through these, ladies and gents. I have one left to go. It's No Time to Die. I'll get to that very shortly here. Hopefully, review will come out the same week this one comes out. Spectre is the 24th official James Bond movie, the 26th that I have watched in this series. That's a lot of films, ladies and gents. That's probably more than I watch in a year period that I've done just with the James Bond movies. Surprisingly, I'm not a huge movie person. I love them, the ones I want to watch, but I don't ever typically go out of my way to spend my free time watching things, whether that's TV or movies. I'm generally more interested in spending it doing something hands-on, video games or board games or writing or something like that. But I digress. Let's get back into Spectre, see if Daniel Craig's streak continues here. He's had a couple of good ones with Casino Royale and Skyfall, and a crap with Quantum of Solace. Let's take a look at Spectre. We're bringing back that old plot of having the shadowy organization run by Blofeld, like we had way back with Sean Connery. They're going to attempt to pull the rest of the Daniel Craig movies together in this one as well. Let's see if they were able to pull it off. Is it classic or is it crap? All right, we will start off with the title and theme as we've been doing. 5 points for title, 10 points for our theme as we're rating the movie here. The title Spectre just simply refers to that organization. I mean, if you think of the word itself, it's kind of a fun choice as well as like something that's kind of overhanging on top of everything else, like the specter of a ghost or just kind of a shadowy presence that happens to be over top of whatever it is that you're doing. In this case, MI6 and world security, as we'll talk about. I think it's an appropriate name for the movie. I think it's their big reveal, and as mentioned, they do try to tie the other films together here. I think they could have did that a little more, but nevertheless, 4 out of 5, good title. I like it. Theme in this one, we have Sam Smith with Writings on the Wall. This is an Oscar-winning song from the film. It's one that I ranked much higher in our ranking of the Bond themes than I would have guessed. It's, if not top tier Bond, it's very close to that. So I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I love the, I don't know, I guess you'd call it falsetto. I'm not somebody who can label singing terms very well. I can enjoy music, but it's a tone for your voice that I don't think I would even be able to hit, much less carry on for an entire song like that. It's pretty crazy. So 8 out of 10. Good job, Mr. Smith. Or however Sam refers to himself. I believe they, them pronouns. But okay, on to our three performance categories here. We have the portrayal of Bond. We have the women of the Bond movie and the villains of the Bond movie, 15, 15, and 10 points respectively. It's interesting too, if I had done these points differently on these movies, we would have different movies do better and worse based on that because of how the points are tabulated. We're getting what we're calling the official ratings here for these, but if you were to grade these movies in different criteria, they could come off in a slightly different order, I would imagine. Some people would argue holistically might be the way to look at these, just how good did the movie feel. Then you might, I don't know, maybe you would pick a movie like Die Another Day, for example, and say it's crap, but it earned a 73 by the way we grade. So in our grading system here, it's going to be a classic. Anyway, back to this again. Daniel Craig as James Bond for 15 points. Fantastic job again in this one, although I will say not as fantastic, I don't believe, as the previous outings that he's had. Whether that's less for him to do in this film, or whether that is his body language, his facial emotions, expressions, the way he delivers his lines, the action that he's providing in this. 13 out of 15, still a really good score. That's still better than most, about halfway through the Bond rankings, I would say. But 13 out of 15, very, very curious to see him in the next movie, No Time to Die. The women in this movie. Well, we do have Money Penny back, which is what I was hoping for, but she's not the focus here. As a matter of fact, she's barely in the movie at all. Instead, if we're picking a Bond lady in this one, it has to be Madeline, who is essentially somebody whose father was Mr. White, as it turns out. And she does begrudgingly finally join forces with Bond, a little more than halfway through the movie, I would say, and is with him for the last maybe 40% of the movie. She's capable. She knows how to handle herself. She's in some key scenes, which we'll talk about here in the plot. Just again, biggest knock on this is she wasn't in enough of the movie, and she still could have been a little more hands-on, I believe. It is kind of interesting, though. This is another movie where we don't have Bond necessarily, making love to the character. He does, but there seems to be some kind of deeper attachment here for some reason. They somebody in the movie, I forget who, says something like, "You're perfect for each other, like you're an assassin and you're the daughter of an assassin. And she's the only person that would understand you," which is kind of poetic in its own way. I don't anticipate she will be back for the final film, but I don't know that because I haven't seen it. So we're going to come to an explosive conclusion when all is said and done here. Okay, next up. So that was a 9 out of 15, if I didn't say that. 9 out of 15 for Madeline. Villains in this film, Christoph Waltz, fantastic actor. Love him in almost everything he's in. Always has a great role that he's portraying. This is an interesting one. He plays we're up to one, two, three, four, fourth or fifth person to play Blofeld now through these movies. And he is kind of maniacal. He's very aloof. He's very Christoph Waltz. I will just say that. It's almost like he's playing Christoph Waltz himself more than Blofeld, the evil super genius who's behind Spectre and everything else. So kind of interesting. There's a little backstory here that Bond's family had died, and Blofeld's family apparently took him in and taught him how to do all the stuff. And so it's kind of almost like his stepbrother is the villain in this one. Could have used a little more scenery chewing from Christoph Waltz, and I don't know, maybe a little more motivation slash explanation why he has this terrible hatred for Bond, slash somehow make yourself seem like you're the head of this organization more so than Christoph Waltz did in this case. So I have to give him a 7 out of 10. It's about average for the villains in this one. I wish I could say more for him because this is much like Mads Mikkelsen. I feel like this is a fantastic actor that just was not used to their full extent. So there we go. Okay, next up, we're moving on to the big points here. 30 points for the plot, 15 points for the action. Let's take a look at the plot first. Goes like this. Mexico City MI6 agent James Bond foils a bombing attempt on a stadium during a Day of the Dead festival. Bond obtains a ring stylized with an octopus from the deceased attacker Marco Sciarra, uncovering his connection to a secret organization. In London, Gareth Mallory, the current M, remember this is who replaced Judi Dench, suspends Bond for unauthorized actions. M is engaged in a power struggle with Max Denby, whom Bond dubs C, the general director of the new privately backed Joint Intelligence Service formed by the merger of MI5 and MI6. C campaigns for Britain to join the Global Surveillance and Intelligence Initiative Nine Eyes and shut down the 00 section. Bond, who is operating on a mission posthumously assigned by the previous M to eliminate Sciarra and track down his employers, goes rogue from MI6, with Moneypenny and Q agreeing to aid Bond covertly. Following the previous M's instructions, Bond attends Sciarra's funeral in Rome, rescues his widow, Lucia, from assassins, Lucia reveals Sciarra's association with a terrorist network run by Franz Oberhauser, who has been presumed dead for 20 years. Using Sciarra's ring, Bond infiltrates a meeting where Oberhauser targets the Pale King for assassination. Oberhauser recognizes Bond, who flees across the city in a modified Aston Martin, pursued by the network's top assassin, Hinks. This is Dave Bautista's character, really an imposing brute. Definitely some like Jaws vibes, some of those earlier films. Doesn't say a lot in this, and this was, I know, early when Batista was just starting to do some roles. Now he's done a lot of things, Guardians of the Galaxy, Knock at the Cabin. I feel like we just watched something else he was into, so I'm glad his career has blossomed, I think, the way he wanted it to, because I know he almost gave up acting because he just kept getting more or less this type of role, like the brute who has no range. But in this case, actually, as a character, it was fantastic. He doesn't need the range here. Moneypenny identifies the Pale King as Mr. White. Makes sense. Pale White, a former member of the organization's subsidiary Quantum. Bond tracks White down to Altawasi, where he is dying of thallium poisoning. Bond offers to protect his daughter, psychiatrist Madeline Swan, who possesses knowledge about Les Américains. White commits suicide. Bond finds Swan, who is reluctant to trust him until Hinks and his forces abduct her. Bond rescues Swan, earning him her trust. Q reveals Le Chiffre, Dominic Green, and Raul Silva, all of the previous three movies, as agents of Oberhauser's organization, which Swan reveals is named Spectre. Swan takes Bond to Les Américains, a hotel, as it turns out, not a person, in Tangier, where a secret room they finally discovered directs them to Oberhauser's base in the Sahara. Hinks ambushes them en route to the base, but they fight him off and defeat him. Arriving at the base, Bond and Swan confront Oberhauser, who reveals Spectre's involvement in the Joint Intelligence Service and the Nine Eyes program. Complicit in Spectre's scheme, plans to give Spectre unrestricted access to intelligence gathered by Nine Eyes. After showing Swan a distressing recording of her father's suicide, Oberhauser subjects Bond to neurosurgical torture. Pretty gruesome scene where he's drilling these little pins into the sides of Bond's head. Not entirely sure how you just come back from that as is, but so he does. He discusses his shared past with Bond to Swan, revealing that they became adoptive brothers after Bond's parents died. Believing that his father loved Bond more than him, Oberhauser killed him and staged his death as well. Since then, he founded Spectre, intending to target Bond, and adopted the name Ernst Stavro Blofeld. Bond and Swan break free, stun Blofeld with an explosive wristwatch, and destroy the base before fleeing to London to prevent Nine Eyes from going online. In London, Bond, Swan, M, Q, Bill Tanner, and Moneypenny gather to arrest C. However, Swan and Bond are separately abducted by Spectre operatives while the others proceed with the plan. After Q stops Nine Eyes from going online, a fatal struggle between M and C results in C's death. Go Ralph Fiennes. Bond is taken to the ruins of the old MI6 building scheduled for demolition after Silva's bombing, where Swan is held captive. Blofeld, who survived the base's destruction with heavy scarring to his face, gives Bond a 3-minute ultimatum to abandon Swan or attempt a rescue and risk death. Bond finds Swan and they escape as the building collapses. Bond shoots down Blofeld's helicopter, which crashes onto Westminster Bridge. Blofeld survives and is arrested by M. Later, Bond receives his restored Aston Martin from Q and drives off with Swan. Now, it seems as though there is a budding relationship there again with Daniel Craig's James Bond and Léa Seydoux' Madeline Swan. I don't know if that'll carry into the next movie or not. We'll have to find out. So it's a long one, I will say as well. Hour and 48 minutes. And it did feel at times its length. There were times where I was kind of thinking like this must be wrapping up, right? And then it just didn't get there. And it kept going and kept going and kept going. Um, Box office and budget here. Budget reported to be almost $300 million. Huge ballooning budget here. Some drama behind the scenes between, I believe, Sony and some of the other companies involved with the Bond licensing. And happy result of all this, though, as it makes about 880 million box office. So more than double what they spent on it, regardless. There's a lot more forgiveness that'll be given between people if there's green to be made. No pun to the villain from Quantum of Solace. Okay, action in the movie, fantastic. As always, here with Daniel Craig. I mean, other than Casino Royale, he's had 15s on these every time, and he's got another 15 here for Spectre. Um, just really good stuff. I mean, the hand-to-hand stuff, again, we had some chase scenes that are really good. A really good scene where they're chasing cars through the streets, and Dave Bautista has some fancy, fashy looking thing. Maybe it's a Ferrari or Lamborghini, I'm not sure, but he's chasing Bond in his Aston Martin, and it's all fantastic. There's just I'm forgetting some now too, but this is just good all around action everywhere you look. Um, Favorite line in this one is when they hand Bond, they give, I forget, there was some cool piece of weaponry they give to like 006 or somebody. And Bond's like, what do I get basically? And Q hands him a watch. And Bond says, does it do anything? And Q says, it tells the time, which I thought was just a fun little line. But in the end, it's a watch that it helps Bond escape anyway. He hands it to Madeline, and she is able to throw it and it explodes, and that's how they escape the first time from Blofeld. So let's add these up quick. Action 15, plot 23, villains 7, Bond women 9, Bond 13, theme 8, title 4. We got a grand total today of classic. This is 79 points for the total here. And that is going to be enough for top 5. Let's just leave it at that for now because we want to do a little wrap up on this when it's all done. So top 5 for Spectre, impressive. You could argue it's not as good of a movie as a couple of these other ones, but again, emphasis here, the way we are grading these, there is points to be given here and there based on the categories. So that's going to do us here for Spectre, ladies and gents. We have one to go. It's No Time to Die. Miss Billie Eilish, I'll be coming for you soon here, dear. And then we'll do the wrap up on all this. So until next time, everybody, hope you're enjoying these little mini podcasts that we've done for Bond all the way through. I'll be kind of happy when I get some more free time back from the 27 of these that I'm spending time doing. But until then, this has been Friends Occasionally, Not Disagreeing, the Fawn Pod, the Fawncast. Check out our recent episode on our most anticipated video games of 2024 if you haven't listened to that one. We'll see you next time.